Well, temptation. I think everybody in this room, everybody listening online, all your friends and neighbors, family, whatever, we all have some temptation that catches our eye. They vary throughout the room. Sandy's temptation may not be the same as Barbara's temptation, but we all face it, right? In fact, it starts pretty young. A few years back, does anybody ever watch that show 2020? Yeah, so sometimes they have like crime mysteries and stuff, and sometimes, at least back in the day, they used to have like kind of science programs and things like that, research and how the mind works and I don't know, about being human. So anyway, they take this group of kids, right? Young kids, probably like 5 years old. And they put them in a room, and they are in there at first, and they put 3 M&Ms in front of them. Just 3. And they tell the kids that they're going to leave the room, but if they can wait 5 minutes without eating or touching any of the M&Ms, they'll get a whole pack of M&Ms at the end of 5 minutes. Okay? So the researcher leaves the room and the camera stays panned in on the kids, and you know, the first 30 seconds or so, it's no problem. They're just kind of sitting there looking around, and then they start to look at the M&Ms. And then they start to look around to see if anybody's watching them looking at the M&Ms. Then the hand goes out and kind of, touches the M&Ms and looks around. And before you know it, the temptation gets so great, they're gone. They had this promise, if they could just last 5 minutes, they could have a whole pack of M&Ms, but it was just too tempting. You know, this scripture today about the temptation of Jesus is interesting as far as we're concerned this morning, because when we think about the temptation of Jesus, you've probably heard multiple sermons or multiple teachings on this passage, right? That somehow that the 3 temptations of Jesus were about the mind, the body, and the soul, or something along those lines, or that the temptations point us to the fact that, when we're tempted, we should turn to the scriptures for encouragement and strength, because that's what Jesus did, right? He just quoted back to the devil the scriptures. But for this morning's exercise and message, let's take a little bit different look at this, all right? There was one individual, actually a couple individuals I found that kind of had a different bend on this. And one of them said, the first temptation by the devil of Jesus was not really a sin, but it dealt with imperfection. Now, I like that because we're talking Wednesday night, we talked about our tendency towards being perfectionists. We want everything to be just right. And here, according to this commentator, it's really the imperfection that's being dealt with here. He was asked to stop doing good, the fasting, and turn these stones to bread. Another commentator said this, "Tell these stones to become bread," the devil said. The first dilemma that Jesus faced was how to use his miraculous power. Jesus had a choice how to use his power in this situation. He could use it for his self-satisfaction to fulfill his hunger and his appetites, or he could use it for the sake of others. So was it selfish reasons, or was it to help others? That's the dilemma that Jesus faced. And think about our own lives. I mean, don't we have choices on how we use our power with people? We can exercise power over people if we are in a workplace or even in our families. We can rule with an iron fist. Do what I say. My way or the highway, right? You don't, be quiet or I'll give you something really to cry about. You ever use that one? I heard that about a gazillion times. Woo! Still got some welts, I think. Anyway, so that's the first temptation. He could have used his power differently. The second temptation, Jesus says, hey, throw yourself off the top of this mountain and or the top of the temple, and you'll be all right. Again, it's a misuse of his power, but this time it's the devil is asking him to prove that he's the Messiah and to exercise his authority in a negative way. The third one is bow down and worship me, the tempter tested. And it was the test to the devotion, Jesus' devotion to God. He could have had all the nations of the world, right? He could have had political power. Think about our culture these days, and the politics and the games that are played in Washington, D.C. for political power. Maybe even in the church sometimes it creeps in. Or at the workplace. You know there's politics in your workplace, right? Yeah. So Jesus was tempted really to be great, right? If you boil it down, you can be great in how you use your miraculous powers. You can be great by calling down a legion of angels to save you from falling. You can be great in political power. And to a certain extent, that greatness was almost an expectation of the people that Jesus came to show the true love of God. There was that temptation, that desire to be great in the background, to do something extraordinary, to change the world. I don't know about you, but every time I've graduated like high school and college and got my master's in divinity and went on to get a doctoral degree, I'm not bragging, I'm just saying. Every time I did that, right, I came out of there and I heard the commencement speech, and you know, it was something. The only one I really remember is Tom Brokaw spoke at our commencement speech at Emory. And, you know, those commencement speeches are to inspire you, right? You've got this head full of knowledge, all this information, all this great power of the brain. Now go out there and change the world. I can remember coming out of seminary, I'm going to change the church. It's more like the church has changed me. Now, not all in bad ways, but in some very good ways. It kind of has curbed my ambitions as I've seen some of these things that I thought I inspired to be or to do. You know, there's that pressure we all face, whether it's in our jobs or in our homes or wherever it is, in sports competitions, to be great, to be number one. After all, what's second place? Somebody said that, the first loser. Who remembers who won who got second place at the 1972 Olympics in the 100-meter butterfly? I don't know. Who do you think got first? Mark Spitz. See, you remember Mark Spitz because he was a champion. But I don't know who got second. I don't know who got the bronze. But we remember the winners, don't we? We remember those who aspire to greatness, who achieve greatness, and we worship them almost. Just think about the athletes that we pretty much worship them, right? I mean, we get their jerseys, we go to the games, we root for them. It's almost as if they become gods with a small g. Or maybe it's an actor or an actress or somebody famous. Or maybe it's some great writer or philosopher or artist or whatever it is. We inspire to that greatness. We inspire to make our mark on the world. And we overlook everybody else. The guy who got second in the Olympics in 1972 in the 100-meter butterfly, Well, he was just another swimmer in the race, right? How many times do we look over people as, well, just another worker, just another athlete, just another person? We hardly ever notice if they don't inspire us to look at greatness. And we put that pressure on ourselves to be the best. All the time, striving. I can remember, and I've shared this with a few people, but my whole life, I have one desire, really, to be the champion at something. All right? Now, I've gotten some first place trophies and first place ribbons in swimming competitions and other athletic endeavors, but most of the time when the big stage is there, second. I entered an art competition one time in middle school. Second. I've swam in big national meets and all. Second. Always seemed like I was second. That desire to compete has driven me to, well, believe it or not, I used to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I know you don't believe that nowadays, but I did used to do it. And when I was a soldier, too, I woke up early and I wanted to be the best. But think about your life. You want to be the best dad. And you might even get that coffee cup on Father's Day, right? Or the t-shirt. World's best dad. Not sure how you got that, but you strive for it, right? That's like the ultimate accomplishment to get the t-shirt or the coffee mug. Or the world's best mom. Never late in the school line. Always there with the cupcakes at birthday classroom party time. And I think that striving, if we're not careful, it becomes who we are. It becomes our identity. We get our self-esteem and our self-worth from being the best, or at least striving to be the best. We try to earn people's respect and admiration and love. We try to gauge how well we perform with how worthy we are. Man, I've fallen into that trap more than once. When you're always second, just another swimmer, just another teacher, just another soldier, just another pastor, just another whatever. Dad, mom, well, I'm not a mom. Anyway, you get it, right? And all of a sudden, you become frustrated. You get exhausted from trying so hard. There's great disappointment at times. Even you can slip into a sense of depression, thinking you're not enough. You know, the people, like I said, were expecting something different, and Jesus could have emerged that day of the wilderness, and he could have changed the world in an instant. In a blink of the eye, he could have solved world hunger, set up the nation of Israel once again to throw off the chains of oppression. There could have been peace in the world. Everything could have been great. He didn't just try to meet the expectations of the masses. He was sent on a mission by God to do something different, to use his power differently than what was expected. Right? You think about those verses from Philippians chapter 2 that it's considered a hymn where it says, he humbled himself even though he was equal with God. He humbled himself and was obedient to death, even death on a cross. That wasn't the expectation of the Savior, the Messiah, the great hero that God would send to liberate his people. Could have been different. So how did Jesus really do it then? How did he show us how to be human? How to live life and be satisfied and fulfilled in life? Well, if you look at the scriptures, it's interesting what Jesus did. Jesus actually gave his power away to other people. He empowered them. He lifted them up. He encouraged them to do things in devotion to God. He just didn't do it and solve all the problems. He told us, hey, you're important to God, and God has a plan and a purpose, and he's got a meaning for your life, and so here, just do this. Remember when he sent his disciples out and they did miraculous things? Remember when he said, you'll do greater things than I've done? I always scratch my head at that, wondering when that's going to happen. But that's what he promises, that we'll do better, more things, because Jesus empowered others. You know, when he came out of the wilderness, he could have changed things in the blink of the eye. But what did he do? He ate dinner with his disciples. He healed a few people. You see, Jesus used his power in such a way that brought God into the everydayness of life itself. Then every day wasn't necessarily the mountaintop experience that we expect, but it was a day that was holy. It was a day that was given as a gift to us, set apart as a set-apart people to experience the awesome presence of God, not just on Sunday mornings during this little hour where you listen to my monologue and you go out feeling like $1,000,000. I know that's not true. I like to step on toes. Anyway, you know, what did he do? He spent time with people at mealtime, a sign of significance, a sign of acceptance. I accept you. If you ate with somebody in those days, remember he got criticized for eating with the tax collector and prostitutes and other sinners? That was Jesus' way of saying, you know what? Society might throw you away, but you're important to God. You matter to God. God loves you. He accepts you. He doesn't like your brokenness. He doesn't like your behavior or your sinfulness, but he still loves you. He had normal conversations. We only get a glimpse at all the conversations Jesus and the disciples had as he traveled with them those 3 years. He walked the earth. I bet there were some ones that didn't get recorded that were pretty spectacular too. He met a woman at the well. He grieved with the sisters who had lost Lazarus, their brother. He was there dancing and filled with joy at the wedding at Cana. He did ordinary things, but in those ordinary things, they became holy things, where God's presence was there surrounding those people that were present there. So what if you, in your faith walk, instead of looking and searching and longing for the mountaintop experience or being the greatest, the greatest member of Cassidy, maybe we should do that. Maybe we should have member of the month, and we can put your picture on the sign out there. You know, I'm sure the leadership team can come up with a rubric, an elaborate rubric on what the criteria are to be member of the month. And, it's like those football players, they get to wear those big gold chains if they make a really great play. We'll get a big gold chain to hang around your neck on Sunday mornings with a big cross with diamonds and rhinestones and jewels on it. How about that? We got work to do. Oh. Well, let's throw that away then. And let's focus in on what if we lived our lives, our ordinary everyday lives, where we get out of bed, we brush our teeth, we go to work, we come home, we pet the dog, or pet the kids, kiss the dog, whatever. What if we did all that and we were aware of God's presence? That those moments became holy moments. Nun, and she was from France, in an order in France, and she lived long ago. Her name was Teresa of Lissa. And she must have been pretty important in her impact in life because she's Saint Teresa. But when she first joined the convent At 15 years old, she was just another girl who wanted to devote her life to following God and to really draw close as she could get. The other sisters in the convent didn't think anything of her. She was just there in the background doing the same routine, mundane, ordinary things day after day until she developed tuberculosis at a very young age, at 24. That's when her life changed. Suddenly, those mundane, routine things of the order of the covenant became for her an opportunity to infuse to overflowing love. Love for her sisters in the convent and love for God. In fact, one story says that as she folded napkins for dinner, she would think about Jesus coming to dinner with her. A simple act of folding a napkin became a holy moment. What if our lives reflected that same holiness, same awareness that God is right there with us, as close as our next breath? Would we strive to be great? Would we strive to be powerful? Would we strive to have our 15 minutes of fame? I don't think so. I think our world and our lives would change. Because instead of struggling to climb the ladder of success and greatness, we would slow down, see that God is all around us. That's the challenge for you today. See the holiness in the ordinary. See the holiness in your everyday stuff. Take on an attitude of gratitude that God is there. He's with you when you're crying and hurt and struggling and frustrated. And He's dancing with you in those moments of great celebration and joy. His promise is He'll never leave you. That's greatness to me. I matter that much to God. He's always there. He'll always love me. I'll always matter, even if I am second place. Take time, see the holy in the ordinary.